Hey everybody, Danny Maude here. Thanks for joining us. Look, you and I both know that there's no magic fix to any golf swing. You can't just do one little thing and hey presto, everything's going to be absolutely brilliant. But there is one thing that could certainly help you improve your overall consistency or make great inroads into improving your ball striking, your power, and your consistency, and that is improving your ability to rotate. You see, if you're not rotating correctly in your backswing and your downswing, you'll have a swing that is reliant on your hands and your arms. Now the problem with that is your hands and arms have a massive range of motion. Now watch this. If you rotate through correctly, you've got rotational power. If you rotate through correctly, you can keep the handle look ahead because its left shoulder's moving. You'll get compression. You'll get strike. The other thing, if you rotate through correctly, the face look is stable. Watch. If you don't rotate through correctly and you are reliant on your hands and your arms, your body stalls, doesn't move, becomes very handsy and armsy. But a lot of my students say, I'm not sure I've got the flexibility to turn down it. How do I do this? So in this week's golf lesson, I'm going to share with you how to rotate correctly, because if you can learn to do this, get this rotation in, I promise you, there's no magic cure to any golf swing, but it can make serious inroads into your overall ball striking, your distance, and your consistency. So that's what I'm going to cover in this week's golf lesson. Now, before I do, look, if you're new to the channel, it's one of your first videos of mine, please consider subscribing. Press that little bell button, next subscribe button, you get notified every time I release a video just like this one. Plus, I always leave a full downloadable practice plan in the description box below, so you never have to remember a thing. Great, so let's keep this really, really simple. Look, if you want wonderful rotation on the way through, the type of rotation that gives you that consistency, you need to make sure you have great rotation in your backswing. Now look, you can do this. Your body's a genius, you already can do this. If I asked you to throw a discus, throw a ball, you'd made a pretty good effort at getting great rotation. Why? Because you take the mass, if this was a discus or a ball, it is a ball, you take the mass of this object in your hand, you'd move it behind you here, so you could use rotational forces to propel it as far as you can. You wouldn't put the mass over here. Why? Because, well, that'd be okay if you were just throwing a gentle underarm. You'd put the mass behind you and you'd use that so you could use those rotational forces to propel it. So what's the difference in golf? Why do golfers find it more difficult? Why do you find it maybe more difficult to do? Well, the difference is this. When you're throwing a ball, an object, the object's in your hands. In golf, the object that actually hits the ball is where? It's at the other end. Our hands are connected to the grip end. The object that we're really throwing is this. It's at the other end. So that can sometimes get in the way of your rotation. It can make you get very handsy and armsy. And how can it do this? Well, watch. What I see a lot is this. You might be throwing the head behind you because it makes sense to kind of get some kind of mass. But when you throw the head alone, the hands stay out in front of you. Now the problem with the hands stay out in front of you here, if you were to use rotational forces, the hands now work where? Too much out this way. Now they're going to hit the wrong part of the golf ball, outside the ball. You're going to come across the line of the golf ball hitting slices, topping it. Alternatively, you might throw the head behind here, leave the hands out in front of you here, and then your body reacts by going, that doesn't feel quite right. Power's somewhere here. Now you start to drop the club inside. People call this sliding, which is your body just compensating to try to hit a decent shot, but that's never going to get rotation, is it? You're going to have to make compensation, which gets you handsy. So the key here is this. We don't just throw the mass of the club. Just like throwing a ball, we need our hands, our hand path, to be also deep so that our hands and the club get thrown behind us, because now look, we can use this and therefore rotational forces to beautifully propel that ball. When you throw the handle and the club head behind, you've created all this space to rotate into. So what I've done here is this. I put just a T-peg at the top of this club, just as a visual tool really, and in doing so, watch this. It gives you an idea of what I see too much. Golfers throwing the head here, if you throw the head too early, leave the handle behind, that T-peg is where? It's out in front of you. That's going to keep the hands consistently in the wrong place. What I want you to do is see if you can get the sensation here of the grip end and the head end being thrown behind you together. If they all get behind, we can use those rotational forces in our bodies to rotate back to the golf ball with no effort. It's just natural to do that, yeah? So that's how I would start first. We're going to go on to the body mechanics to make this more efficient, because without the correct body mechanics, you might not be able to do this. But start with that first. Get the handle and the head working more like together back here. And notice this, I don't want to make this mechanical. Start to get some momentum, get some throw into this motion, so that, because the throw will help you create much more flow, so it's not too mechanical, right? Start with that first. A little bit left, I think, that one, just pulled it a fraction. Doesn't matter, right? Which doesn't matter, because we're going to get onto this next point. So the next point is trying to get the body mechanics going with this too. So watch this. Too often what I'm seeing, and I just had it with a recent client of mine, Don, online, is that this section is a bit locked. So the problem is one of the reasons why golfers do throw their head behind is because the legs, well, they've blocked this, and therefore you've got no alternative but to throw the head behind. If you want to get this going, I can't get this going if my legs are locked, yeah? I can't get the hands working behind, because this won't allow me. So you've got to get this trail leg extending, moving out of the way, not straightening, but just extending a little bit, so you've got space, look, to throw those hands, to throw the head behind. Notice this action. It's a bending of the lead, extending of the trail. One. That's the motion. This keeps you naturally centered, but also provides this space to throw the handle and the head in a position where it's got depth you can rotate from and then bring it down. On the way down, you simply just reverse this process where the trail leg starts to kind of flex, lead leg then extends, just the opposite on the way down, right? I've got a detailed video on this. I'll put it up in this top right hand corner here, right? So that's what we're after. We're trying to get you here more depth on the way back. In order to do that, you don't just throw the mass behind, just throw the head behind, get the handle working as well. So I notice each time I'm saying throw it behind, because trying to make this too mechanical just adds loads of tension, yeah? So watch this. I'm going to get some momentum here, and I watch, no, that's throwing the head. You might want to do this wrong to start with. Let's throw the handle and the head. There we go. Now watch. If I don't let this extend either, watch, I end up looking like this. But watch what happens when I extend. Now when that extends, I stay centered. It helps me stay more centered here. Gets me going upwards as well. So I not just get it depth, I actually get downforce on this golf ball, yeah? So I'm providing that space up, down. You make sense? So let's start having a look at this in action. So we get ourselves set. Your T-peg as a guide. Let's just get that sensation of throwing it back, extending up, creating that depth. Hands are over here now. Now I can attack comfortably in a rotational fashion. Come down a little bit, probably a bit long actually. Not too bad. Okay, so all we're doing here is literally helping you naturally create rotation. You can't create rotation on the way through, great rotation on the way through, if you don't have a great position at the top of the swing. If you're out of position here, there's no way you'll get rotation on the way down. You must get into a position where it's so natural for the body to think, oh, great, just like throwing a ball. I'm going to do this. Now, if I put my hand up here to throw a ball, would I be able to rotate? No. That's where we're going to be. Same in golf, all right? So let's just summarize. You've got to get depth in your backswing. In order to create wonderful rotation, you've got to make sure that you're not just throwing the mass of the head, you throw the handle, the grip end, and the head. That's the first thing. Get them both working behind the body so that the body can be used to rotate them back out in front of the body for power. That alone might not always work. That's just part of the equation. You've also got to remember that the body mechanics make this as well. If you're locking your lower body in place, you won't be able to achieve any of this. So you've got to understand how the pivot works. We've got to unlock it. The lead leg bends, the trail leg extends. This here, as I throw this club back, I'm going to extend upwards here. That gets me throwing the club behind with the hands and throwing it up gets me staying nice and centered. If I lock this in place, which I saw with a recent student of mine, Don, literally he throws it here, he's blocked. This blocks any road of getting behind. You get the club going vertical. From here, you're doomed. You're just going to chop down on it. You might try and drop it here, but now your body's going to have to, it's not going to rotate. It's going to have to do all kinds of weird stuff. So I want you to work this naturally around here by bending, extending, throwing that club behind you. Feel that rotation, and then away you go. Okay, so hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, maybe share it with one of your friends who's really struggling to get that rotation. Remember, there's 2 videos here. I've got one, I put them both up in this top right hand corner. One talking about a bit more about the rotation, but also what you do also in the downswing once you finish this, just to kind of add on here and move on to that next stage. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, come and join the community by pressing that subscribe button and the bell. And remember, there's a free practice guide in the description box below. So go ahead and download it, and I'll see you next time.